The leaden clouds pressed down on Coffin City like a lid on a coffin, and I, Augustus Murdoch, the wretched servant of despair, wandered through its dank streets. The raindrops, cold and relentless, like the fingers of a dead man, penetrated my worn cloak, chilling my bones. This city, lost among the endless heath, had been cursed since its founding, its history steeped in blood, betrayal, and madness. I knew it, felt it with every fiber of my being. The reason for my arrival in this godforsaken place was as dark as the town itself. I, a former physician and now a shadow of myself, had been summoned to investigate an unusual case affecting the Blackwood family, once the most influential citizens of Coffin City. There were rumors of strange sounds emanating from the family crypt, illnesses affecting the household, and worst of all, a progressive madness consuming their minds. And so I stood before the massive gates of Coffin City Cemetery, their cast iron flaps decorated with intertwining bones and skulls overgrown with moss and lichen. The old gatekeeper, an old man with a face furrowed with wrinkles as if inscribed with curse runes, warned me in a creaky voice, "Do not disturb the sleeping Murdoch. Here lie those who must not be awakened." I brushed off his words. Science, even in its fallen state, was my only compass in this labyrinth of darkness. But how wrong I had been! How arrogant I had been to think I could apply rationality to a nightmare whose origins lay beyond human comprehension. The cemetery stretched out before me like a vast sea of tombstones drowned in grey mist. Every slab, every cross, every statue seemed to whisper of the tragedies buried beneath the earth. I felt like an intruder into the sacred space of the dead, and every step I took echoed in my soul, heightening my sense of unease. The Blackwood family crypt towered above the others like a grinning mausoleum of madness. It was built of black granite, with strange symbols engraved on its walls that I couldn't identify. The door of the crypt, massive and iron-clad, was slightly ajar, as if inviting me to enter its chilling gut. I summoned all my courage, forced my trembling hands to open the door wider, and stepped into the crypt. It was a chilling darkness inside, with a smell of damp earth, rot, and something indescribably horrible that made my heart itch. The only light was the narrow strip of light coming through the ajar door, and the beam of my flashlight trembling in my hand. Along the walls were rows of sarcophagi, each decorated with family crests and inscriptions about the deceased members of the Blackwood family. I began to scrutinize each sarcophagus, hoping to find some hint of unease. Suddenly I heard it. A faint, barely audible whisper seemed to come from beneath the ground. At first I thought it was my imagination playing tricks on me, born of fear and fatigue. But the whisper grew louder, more and more distinct, becoming an inarticulate mumble soaked with pain and despair. I listened, straining to hear, trying to make out the words. They were in some ancient, unfamiliar language, but I felt I understood their meaning. It was a plea, a cry for help coming from deep within the earth. I knelt down, pressing my ear to the cold stone floor of the crypt. The whispering intensified, becoming almost unbearable. The crypt itself seemed to come alive, filled with the voices of the dead calling out to the living. I jumped up, panic-stricken. My flashlight fell out of my hand and shattered, plunging the crypt into darkness. I felt cold breath on my face, the touch of icy fingers on my neck. I screamed, but my scream was drowned out by the whisper that was now everywhere, surrounding me on all sides. I stumbled toward the door, but it slammed shut, as if by someone's ill will, and I was trapped, alone with a nightmare that exceeded my worst expectations. In desperation, I began to grope the walls of the crypt, looking for a way out. My fingers came upon a ledge, a gap in the wall. I pressed on it, and with a muffled groan, part of the wall slid away, revealing a narrow passage that led deep into the earth. Without thinking, I squeezed through the passage, hoping to find salvation from the whispers that haunted me. But instead of salvation, I found only an entrance into the heart of madness. The passage led me into an underground labyrinth dug beneath the cemetery. The walls were made of roughly hewn stone, covered with moss and mold. There was a stifling odor of decay and rot in the air. I walked forward as if guided by an invisible force, my senses heightened to the extreme. I heard water dripping from the vaults, old bones creaking, the whispering voices of the dead. Soon I reached a large underground chamber, illuminated by a faint, ghostly light, the source of which I could not identify. In the center of the chamber stood an altar made of human bones, and on it lay an ancient folio bound in human skin. I approached the altar as if mesmerized. The book seemed to beckon to me, drawn to me by its sinister beauty. I picked it up with trembling hands and opened the first page. What I saw threw me into a horror that paralyzed me. The pages of the book were inscribed with strange symbols like those I had seen on the walls of the crypt, and illustrations depicting scenes of unimaginable cruelty and depravity. I realized it was a grimoire, a book of spells that could awaken powers that would have been better off dormant. And then I realized where the whisper was coming from. It came from this book, from these words, from these drawings. It was the voice of the evil that dwelt within these walls that was waiting to break free. Suddenly I heard the sound of footsteps approaching me. I turned around and saw a figure wrapped in a black cloak approaching me. Her face was hidden in the shadow of the hood, but I could feel her intense, angry gaze on me. The figure approached me and spoke. Her voice was hoarse like the gnashing of bones and soaked with hatred and malice. "You shouldn't have come here, August Murdoch," she growled. "You woke the sleepers. Now you will pay for your curiosity." I tried to run away, but the figure seized my arm with her icy grip. I looked at her face, and horror gripped me. Beneath the hood was the face of an old man tormented by sickness and madness. It was the head of the Blackwood family, the same one to whom I had been summoned for treatment. "I will show you the true meaning of madness, Murdoch," the old man hissed. "I will open to you the gates to hell." And he began reciting a spell from a book, his voice growing louder and louder, filling the underground chamber with an eerie energy. I felt my head split open, my mind collapsing under the weight of the evil that had fallen upon me. Suddenly the ground shook and the walls of the cell began to crumble. Figures dressed in rags and chains began to rise from the ground. They were the dead awakened by Old Man Blackwood's spell. They surrounded me, pulling their bony hands toward me, calling out to me in their rotten voices. I screamed, but my scream was drowned out by their howls and the whisper of the spell the old man was reciting. I could feel the madness taking over my mind, reality falling apart. I saw the nightmares that had haunted me all my life come to life and become reality. I am no longer August Murdoch, doctor's servant of science. I am only a part of this nightmare, just one voice in a chorus of the dead, doomed to wander forever through these subterranean labyrinths, tormented by madness and despair. I don't know how much time has passed. Maybe hours, maybe days, maybe forever. Time has lost all meaning in this place where only darkness and madness rule. I can still hear the whispering, it never stops. It speaks to me, teases me, torments me. It tells me secrets that would be better left unsolved, nightmares that would be better left in my dreams. I know I'm going to die soon. My body is exhausted, my mind is ruined. But even death will not bring me deliverance. I will be doomed to wander forever in these underground labyrinths, with the dead tormented by whispers that never cease. Sometimes I see the living lost in these labyrinths as if I were once there. I try to warn them, shouting to them to run, to not disturb the sleeping ones. But they don't hear me. They are too absorbed in their fear, their curiosity, their madness. I know I'm going to die soon. My body is exhausted, my mind is ruined. But even death will not bring me deliverance. I will be doomed to wander forever through these underground labyrinths, along with the dead tormented by whispers that will never, and I realize that they are as doomed as I am. They will become part of this nightmare, become another voice in the chorus of the dead, doomed to wander forever through these underground labyrinths, tormented by a whisper that never stops. So if you ever find yourself in Coffin City, don't go to the cemetery. Don't disturb the sleeping. Do not try to solve mysteries that would rather remain unsolved. For deep in the earth, beneath the graveyard of Coffin City, lies a crypt full of dead men tormented by madness and despair. And if you enter that crypt, you will never come out of it the same again. You will become one of them. You will become one of those who whisper from the crypt of the damned. And now let me join the chorus, let me add my voice to the whispers, let me tell you of the nightmares that haunt me. For you are listening to Augustus Murdoch, forever damned, forever lost in the labyrinths of madness, under the eternal whispers of the crypt of the damned.